Okay, hello everybody. Today's date is August 8, 2021, and my name is Leslie Williams. I'm a target, victim, and activist concerning the continued criminal expeditions of what is known as gang stalking. It's not stalking by gangs, okay, and the majority of the stalking is illegal tracking through one or more means. This is not an educational video to educate you about the overall general program of gang stalking. This is a specific video pertaining to specific crimes connected to gang stalking. In fact, what I'm going to expose in this video is related to some of the most sophisticated aspects of this crime. And trust me when I say many things that are done through the community-based gang stalking and through some of the sound technology and through remote neural monitoring. Well, let me just kind of go backtrack just for a second. A lot of the community-based gang stalking seems very simple once you hear about it and look at it through research and concerning like specific descriptions, and then when you hear me describe how they employ those specific techniques, which are part of the descriptions, when you really research that, you'll kind of say, okay, well, this seems simple enough. It's just harassment, it's just this, it's just that. No, it's not. The community-based harassment plays a huge role in brain entrainment connected to gang stalking, visual and auditorial. You should also know remote neural monitoring can play a massive role in auditorial and visual entrainment, including artificial synthetic electronic dreams. Excuse me. Google all my statements to gang stalking, then to organized stalking, and do your in-depth, meticulous research with a mature posture. And then what you want to do is you want to correlate the data that comes up from each description. Baby cakes and sweethearts, this is how you see truth. Each description is a piece of the puzzle. I'm going to interject this. Back in the 70s when I was growing up, my mom and dad used to buy us kids picture puzzles. You bring the picture puzzle home. Back in the 70s, the picture of what the puzzle would look like would be on the front of the box. So you take all the pieces out, you set the front of the box up in front of you, and then you start looking at each piece and you're saying, okay, this piece goes here, this piece goes there, and then when you're done, it completes the picture of the puzzle. Well, that's what each description is, sweetheart. Each description, hold on 1 second. Taking my last puff off my cigarette so I can get that out of the way. Each little description is a piece of the puzzle. As a result of you staying with this YouTube account, make no mistake about it, and as a result of you doing what I describe in my videos, you absolutely will have the picture. And make no mistake about it, and on most of my videos, I give you enough descriptions pertaining to what gang stalking does and then how it employs it within targeted individuals' lives, which then assist in achieving each motive that's attached to the subject matter of that particular video. I give you enough information so you can walk away with at least a preliminary understanding. So trust me when I say my videos I almost want to say they're gold. Now, my fellow American citizens, let me dive right into the subject matter of this video, because I only make 33-minute videos at a time, even though I do have some video series videos dedicated to this YouTube account you're watching this video through. And but the phone starts segueing into a separate video after I reach 33 minutes and 9 seconds. I don't know why it does that. It's a pain in the ass. I didn't know it until after I bought it. I'm going to play you right now a segment of an audio file, and then I'm going to talk to you about what you hear. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, this is the audio from a YouTube video. And if I remember to, I'll tell you how to get to that. And trust me, over time, you're going to start seeing YouTube links and other pasted materials and evidences within my YouTube videos. And many of those links will be things that I do play in the videos. So you'll be able to go in and watch the entire YouTube video that this audio comes from. So I'm going to go ahead and set this up and just be patient for a second, because I got to make sure that nothing happens that stops this video. So just bear with me a second. Baby cakes and sweethearts. That's right. Okay. So I'm going to set this up right here so we don't have any problems with Alfonio. And I'm going to press play on the tape recorder, and you need to listen to this very carefully. You ready? Here we go.
The DIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, and the Defense Intelligence Agency, which provides the contractors, the handlers, the operators, these hive-mind teams. They're the ones that are basically responsible for the torture and assassination of mind control victims for the purposes of training, research, and development. It's the CIA and DIA that's targeting and attacking mainly responsible for the training, research, and development behind all of this. And, they operate in what are called hive mind teams. These hive mind teams are dedicated to the victim, the target. Now, not everyone has hive mind teams that are dedicated to them. Most people are just remotely tied to a supercomputer, and we'll get into that shortly.
Now, you're talking about TIs. Some TIs have a hive mind team working them. That's what you're saying?
Right. Well, as soon as a person is selected for this technology, all the empty or available apartments, homes, offices, hotel rooms, etc., in and around there,
snapped right up. Yeah.
Right. They're leased, they're subleased. Then the hive mind teams move in, the surveillance teams move in, on and on down to the organized stalkers at the street level surround the victim, and they keep the victim at that point in what's called a floating box. It's called a psychotronic concentration camp. The science behind mind control technologies is called psychophysics. The technology behind mind control technologies is called psychotronics.
And say that again, Brian. That was important, please. Psychophysics and psychotronics. Go ahead.
Psychophysics and psychotronics. The science is psychophysics. The technology is psychotronics. And they're keeping their victims basically boxed in a floating box. And we'll get to that shortly. But I wanted to just start off with, how they're doing it and why. Basically, we know that the four agencies involved are the DoD, CIA, DIA, and the NSA. But those handlers and operators that are dedicated to the victim every 8 hours, they work in shifts. Not all targeted individuals have hive mind teams. The majority don't have hive mind teams which are dedicated to them. But most trauma-based mind control victims do have hive mind teams dedicated to them. And they work in an 8-hour shift with some degree of overlap.
This is also referring to the general term of gang stalking. Understand that. This is what gang stalking is fueled by. Hive mind teams. Go ahead.
Yeah, the hive mind teams direct the paradigm against the target individual, the mind control victim, for training, research, and development. They're the ones that control the surveillance teams below them, on down to the organized stalkers at the street level. They're hiding behind and using law enforcement agencies and other government agencies and organizations to do their dirty work to achieve their objectives. Basically, the hive mind teams are using two interfaces. Okay, they're using what's called a brain-to-computer interface, and secondly, they're using what's called an electronic brain-to-brain interface. The brain-to-computer interface is simply the supercomputer. Okay, so what they do is they move close to the victim. The hive mind teams will move close to the victim. They will obtain remotely the digital brainwave signature of the victim, the digital brainwave imprint, similar to an EEG readout you would get at a hospital. They're able to obtain that remotely. And then once they have that digital brainwave imprint, that digital copy of your brainwave signature,
It's like a fingerprint.
they upload that.
Like a fingerprint. Okay.
Right. It's unique to every person, just like I said, a fingerprint. Nobody has the same brainwave signature. Okay, they can take that digital brainwave imprint, that brainwave signature, and they upload it to their supercomputer. And then they remotely tie, that's the key word to understand, they remotely tie the victim to life to that supercomputer wirelessly, remotely, by way of a bidirectional stream of electromagnetic low-frequency waves, specifically tuned to the brainwave signature of the victim. That stream contains a hidden carrier frequency. I should call it a bit stream. It contains data. Okay, that hidden carrier frequency, that pulse train,
ELF bit stream of data.
right? And the bit stream they're using is specifically tuned to the brainwave signature of the victim, so that they can interact with the brainwave pattern.
Got it.
And manipulate the brainwaves of the victim. So,
Okay, good question. May I jump in here?
Of course, go right ahead.
We've established that everybody has a brainwave frequency signature. That is clocked. It's uploaded into the supercomputers by ultimately everybody will be in there, or most everybody. Can they not use that, we'll call it an address, that electromagnetic signature frequency of the particular
development, they have to verify their technology. So
Of course.
verification is absolutely necessary. They have to surround the victim.
You can't move forward without verification. I got you.
Right, but this stream, this bidirectional stream of energy, which they can upload, download at the speed of light, it's called the information and injection feedback loop. Okay, so they can inject at the speed of light, and energy travels at the speed of light. So by modulation of the phase, the frequency, and amplitude of that stream, they can begin to manipulate the brainwaves of the victim. What's happening is that they remotely tie the victim using, to answer your question, they're using 3 platforms. 5G, to the best of my knowledge, is not necessary or required for mind control technologies to work properly. Now, there's a lot of infrastructure involved. I don't understand all that. I would refer you back to Dr. Robert Duncan and the other scientists who are involved. But this stream is an extremely low frequency, electromagnetic low frequency waves that are specifically tuned to the brainwave signature of the victim. So you're talking micrograms. Okay? So it could not be 5G. But the 3 platforms they're using to target their victims, people want to know how they're being targeted. They think they're being targeted with towers or satellites. No, you're not. You're not being targeted. They say they're being attacked with towers and satellites. No, you are not. They are simply the relay devices. You're being attacked by a supercomputer. The supercomputer begins to monitor all electromagnetic activity of the victim's brain by way of this bidirectional stream of energy. And it begins to monitor and download all that information back into its database. So any set of brainwaves can be captured, held, and perpetually replayed in the victim's brain. So what the system is doing is it's copying all the brainwaves of the victim, and it's downloading them back into its system and building within the database.
Wow. They are actually, they have a complete 4D model of the brain and the psyche and everything else of the targeted individual. This is fascinating. We have to take a break, Brian. Hold on. At the rudimentary baseline of a lot of people that end up in this awful matrix of electromagnetic frequency hell is this satanic ritual abuse, trauma-based induction into this program. It can take many forms, of course, but let's not forget that. And that is certainly linked to institutionalized, weaponized pedophilia from the church to the boardroom and everywhere in between. It is just a horribly ugly, dark situation. Back in a minute with Brian 2. Okay, welcome back. Talking about the world, the invisible world of mass mind control and individual mind control that is, it's just extraordinary. Talking with Brian 2, TEW, about this. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, to answer your question about the hive mind teams, people want to know where they are, where they're coming from. They're not in some underground base somewhere. They're in every town, every city in America. They're hiding in plain sight. The best secret is that which is hidden in plain sight. And these hive mind teams are hiding in plain sight. They're the psychiatrists at the local mental hospital. They're the psychologists at the local children's clinic. They're the neuroscientists at the local university, etc. Okay, they're hiding in plain sight. And these cognitive researchers are the ones that are responsible for a lot of the torture and assassination that goes on for the purposes of training, research, and development in mind control technologies. They're using 2 interfaces, like we said, the brain-to-computer interface. That's the supercomputer.
so I'm going to conclude that part of the audio for this particular video because that's already taken up almost at least 8 minutes. And again, remember, this phone only allows me to make 33-minute long videos at a time. Now, I am going to make a second video when I'm going to start that video once I approach the 33-minute and 10-second mark, and I'll let you know that. And you'll understand how I'm going to let you know that when I approach that time frame. So let me talk to you a little bit about what you just heard. Now, the second video is going to be a direct continuation of this one. And this is going to probably be, this can be considered an addendum video. Hold on. Excuse me, please. This can be considered an addendum video to the video series videos I just started recently that I believe I'm going to be titling Remote Neural Monitoring, Brain Entrainment, Gang Stalk in San Diego. Okay, and be patient because things will get pasted within the description. So let's talk a little bit about what these satanic rats are doing in part. Now, I played it up to the point where you heard him say organized stalking. Now, do you really think that organized stalking has no role in this? This guy, Brian 2, is an ex-DOD contractor. He's gotten a lot of his data research from some of the scientists who helped develop the technology that is reported to be used on gang stalking victims who are enduring this aspect of this crime. Now, so let me run a couple things down to you here real fast. And remember, the second video is going to be picked up at where I left off at in this video. So you're gonna have to watch that video in order to, because the second video is really gonna start getting into the meat and potatoes. Yeah. So, all right. Now you heard Brian say that the synaptic responses are induced. That's through the gang stalking and the other things that whether I mention in this video or not. It's included within this video series, so trust me, you'll understand. Remember, each description is a piece of the puzzle. So let's look at the synaptic responses that are induced. The synaptic responses are induced through the right now I'm just going to talk about how it's induced through the organized stalking. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to research gang stalking to the sensitization method, to the direct conversation method, to the DNLP, which stands for Dark Neural Linguistic Programming. And you'll know what that is when you research it, and I'm sure I'll discuss it. So just stay with this video series. Trust me on that. Now, in order for them to be able to get verification, okay, that their technology is working correctly, they have to be able to force and effect a technique upon a victim for the victim to notice through their senses. And when we look at what our senses are, sight, hearing, taste, smell, touch, sight, hearing, taste, smell, and touch. Now, visual and auditorial brain entrainment is one of the two main brain entrainments that these 6 satanic mass murdering, wild raping, gang raping, human trafficking whores are after. Okay? Because it's something that can, well, you'll understand that as I continue to talk. Make sure you watch the videos that are already in this account as well, because there's already a lot of brain entrainment videos in this account. Yeah. So how are the synaptic responses induced so that they can then verify what gets excited? So let's talk just a few seconds here about brain entrainment and how it's related to gang stalking. So what I did was I created these little, if you have any knowledge of series circuits, parallel circuits, combination circuits, and electronics, and even if you don't, you're going to be able to see this. So this right here is a simple series circuit that you can, if you type that into electronics and series circuits at Google and YouTube, you'll be able to understand how easy a series circuit is. I just drew one real fast so you can have a visual representation. So this right here is a simple series circuit, and it's got these little wiggly lines you can consider as just being resistors. Okay? Now, even though that's usually not what a series circuit is, but I just drew the wiggly lines in for a reason. You'll understand that in a minute. Now, this right here is the open switch part of the circuit that's connected to a power source. Usually with series, it's direct current. Okay? Now, the reason why I did this was because, let me grab my pen here real fast. Trust me, you'll see this as I talk. So let's say if you connect a bunch of wires with some resistors on them. Okay. A good way to look at a series circuit is to look at Christmas lights. Okay. So you got a power source. This is the power source right here, and these are the wires. Okay, so let's just say that this is one of those string type Christmas lights that you see on trees or people will put up around the windows of their homes, right? So you connect the Christmas lights to your outlet, and there's your power source, right? Then the current starts to flow, and then when it gets to each little light, a certain amount of current, the current will just flow through it and energize it. So the light will come on. And then it just goes around and around and around. And each one of the resistors, you can just view that as a light, so that all the lights light up. Okay? And stay lit up. And since it's a loop and it's kept on, it will just loop around endlessly. So you can look at each light on a string of Christmas lights, that the kind of lights that you see in the frame of a window of a home, okay? Or maybe on the gutters, where it's just a stream of lights, okay? Whether they're flickering or not. Okay, so you can look at each light as being a synaptic response that flows in the victim's brain. Okay, now brain entrainment connected to gang stalking is where the brain is forced to think in a certain way based on a certain stimuli. This is where the organized stalking, gang stalking comes into play. So I'm going to give you a real fast example concerning that, and I'm going to have to start talking fast. Now, so a great way to understand brain entrainment and how it's introduced within the gang stalking program is to look at the stimuli that are used in it and incorporated and enforced and effect and induced upon the victim through their sight and through their hearing. So say if you got an old woman who lives in a bad neighborhood and a neighbor of hers tells her that there's a known neighborhood teenager that's breaking into people's homes that lives in the neighborhood. And she's already living in a rough neighborhood, right? So the neighbor is telling her about this. And she is aware of who the teenager is when the neighbor tells her who it is. So then a week later, she's doing her dishes in the kitchen, and she's got a kitchen window right in front of her sink, and that kid walks by her home. Now, as soon as she sees him, okay, what's that's going to do is that's going to excite that memory, okay, of what she was told about the kid. So her brain's going to be immediately aroused and stimulated because she's already living in a bad neighborhood. So as soon as she sees him, what that does is that excites a visual memory of the conversation that she had with the neighbor who told her about the kid. Then 3 days later, she finds out that the neighbor that lives directly behind her's house was broken into. 3 days after that, the neighbor across the street that told her the first thing, they told her about the kid, says that, yeah, we heard about your neighbor her house getting broken into, and we think it might be the kid. So then 3 days after that, the kid walks by her home again. And so both of these conversations are going to be immediately stimulated in her mind based on what she's seen. She's seen him walk towards the area that is in the direction of the house behind her on the first time she saw him, after she was told the first time by the neighbor, and then when she found out that neighbor behind her's house got broken into, then 3 days later from the first conversation, then that neighbor who told her then reapproached her and said, yeah, we think that the teenager broke into the house behind yours. So then when a teenager walks by again by her kitchen window, both conversations are going to be immediately stimulated and remembered in her mind. So what you got here now are visual memories and auditory memories. Okay? Now, what happens is that every time in the future when this old lady sees that kid, her mind is going to immediately stimulate these visual memories and the auditorial references, the verbal dialogue about what she was told about the kid. Now, that's a great way for you to understand what I'm about ready to tell you. So take what I just told you and set it aside. Now, a visual memory in a looped neural pathway can be considered what the lights are. Because every time that old woman was told about the kid, okay, so consider this light right here of this series circuit that I told you about a second ago. Consider that first light being the first conversation she was told. The second light is when she saw the kid after she was told what she was told. The third light was her finding out about her neighbor that lives right behind her's house getting broken into. The fourth light is the second conversation she had with the neighbor and how he told her that they suspect that it was the kid that broke into the house of the neighbor directly behind her. Then therefore, every time she sees him in the future, whether it's out her kitchen window or when she's sitting on her porch, all these visual and verbal memories will immediately be excited. And it would just run in a loop every single time that she sees him or hears about him. And that's what brain entrainment is. Your brain, it transfers information by and through brainwaves. Okay? Which is why I use the squiggly lines like I did. Now, the information, so the brain waves, these ups and downs are the oscillations of the information transfer. Okay? So as the information is being transferred along the brain waves, so you can consider this being the brain wave, and then something is being told to the victim right here, this line. Whatever the victim's being told, or whatever the person's being told, then gets transferred over onto this part of the brain wave. Each oscillation of this brain wave has synaptic gaps. Okay? Where the brain responds to the information that it's taking in visually and or auditorily. So when gang stalking crimes make a woman homeless and then stage a event towards that woman at a wooded area, and then when the event's going on, the person they're using for the staged event, like an assault or a threat, the victim is seeing the person and they're hearing the threats. So as the victim is seeing the person and hearing the threats, all that information is being transferred in the brain and along the synaptic gaps. Okay? Now, so say if you make a woman homeless and then she goes to a wooded area and you bring a homeless man, and the person who's hosting the crime brings a homeless man towards her, she's going to see it. Right? And then as he's walking towards her, he's acting all intense physically. He's acting hostile verbally. The verbal is the auditorial. What she sees is the visual. Then he assaults her. Then while he's assaulting her or going off on her, and then he assaults her, steps away from her, then comes back towards her again. Okay? Whether he assaults her the second time or not, then steps away from her, then comes back at it again. That's done to excite neural responses. Okay, he just got done assaulting me. He walked away, now he's coming back. Is he going to assault me again? So the brain is taking all this in. It's taking in the dialogue. It's taking in his intense behavior, which can be dialogue and physical gestures, his body overtures, what he's conveying visually to the victim. Okay? And gang stalking will literally play out events where the guy they're using is told to act extremely hostile, extremely loud, extremely provocative, extremely intense. He's told to engage in specific behaviors that would lead a person into believing that, okay, assault her once and then make her think that she's going to get assaulted again when you walk back towards her. Okay? So, all you got to do is watch like a gang movie to kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about when you see somebody being assaulted by a gang member, even though gang stalking is not stalking by gangs. So all this information is taken in. So every part of that event becomes a visual memory. What happened during the event, everything heard, sounds that he made, verbal statements he made, and what she saw him doing visually. Okay? That becomes a visual memory. The boxes are visual memories. Okay, if you had a wedding song like Endless Love, and then 10 years later you get in your car and you turn on the radio and Endless Love comes on, your brain's going to immediately stimulate the visual memories of your wedding day. Same concept. So what these little fucking filthy maggots are doing is they're intentionally creating episodic memories in gang stalking crimes towards victims for this purpose. Okay? Now, once you create a visual memory reference, just like the old lady seeing the kid, it can then be stimulated by and through repropping back up something that is associated to the original act. Whether you're told something about somebody and then what you're told has a visual reference to it or not, what the lady was told about the kid, then she saw the kid. When she saw the kid, she remembered, okay, what she was told. That's a visual and auditorial reference to something she was told, and what she was told had a visual reference to it, the kid. Same thing concerning the assault of a homeless person. Okay? Whatever the victim sees gets stored in your mind as a visual memory. Whatever you hear any type of sounds, the sound of a person's voice, the way he's acting, okay, is all stored. This becomes then a brain entrained pathway. The reason why it becomes a brain wave. Then what gang stalking will do is reprop up either the same person, usually though different people, to repeat the same types of acts. And when they repeat the same types of acts, what they will do is they will, when this act is going on, they will repeat something that happened during the original act when they used the first homeless person. That way, it excites the brainwave of the original brainwave that was created. And that reinforces it. Now, every time they repeat the same type of act, and when they repeat the act, they'll mention something or do something that was done in the first act. And that causes that synaptic response to become induced and excited. Every time they repeat an act that's got attributes that are similar to the first act, what the brain does is it remembers it because it's got a visual reference. And what that does is that excites the original first brainwave. And every time the brain then reprocesses it, that brainwave becomes extremely reinforced. And then, so say if you experience something 40 times like this, the potentiated frequency output of that brainwave will become extremely strong. That way in the future, whenever they prop up anything that is associated to this, no matter how minor it is or how engraved it is, it will excite this brainwave and this brainwave potentiated frequency output from it to fire, and there's your verification. Verification occurs by exciting the potentiated frequency output of the entrained pathway, okay, and anything that is incorporated onto it later. And I'll talk about that in the second video, because I'm approaching right now the 33-minute mark. So I wanted to give you enough information about this. This is like an introduction to brain entrainment and gang stalking pertaining to just one aspect of this crime. But this is extremely sophisticated because of the technology and how it's interfacing with you. A gang stalking victim can be forced to hear and or see something 70 times a day just to keep this shit reinforced. And they build on them too. Absolutely. So I'm getting ready to segue now into the second video. So I'm going to conclude this one by saying I'm getting ready right now to segue into the second video. And when the second video starts, I'll say its name.